So this little video here is going to go through some pedigree analysis, including some of the past HSC questions on analysing pedigrees. A few tips and tricks, hopefully, to help you guys answer these questions. So this is question 24 from your trial HSC that you've just done. Looking at hemophilia. So hemophilia sufferers lack a protein in the blood which plays a role in blood clotting. For this reason, they're at risk of bleeding uncontrollably and potentially dying from minor injuries. The gene coding for the protein is carried on the X chromosome and has a recessive allele. So it's a sex-linked recessive. Based on that information, that'll come in handy. Sex-linked recessive. Okay. Explain why haemophilia is much less common in women than it is in men. So to answer part A here, women carry 2 X chromosomes while men have 1 X and 1 Y. This means that if a man carries the recessive allele on his single X chromosome, he will express it and have haemophilia. So if we have a male X and he's carrying the recessive allele, and he's obviously got a Y, then he's going to express it. Women, however, would have double the recessive, would have to be double recessive to express the trait, so they would be homozygous recessive. Most women who carry the allele would be heterozygous, however, and would not express it. So we're just talking about the chances here of a female expressing it. If it was recessive, it would have to be XN, XN. But there is a chance she has 2 X chromosomes here, so she could have recessive and dominant. For this reason, the trait is much more common in men than in women. So that's how to explain part A there of that question. So part B is a couple have a daughter who has haemophilia. They then have a son who does not have the condition. Explain fully how this is possible. Include a pedigree diagram in your answer. So what you do here is start with the pedigree, and then you can explain in words how this is possible after. But first of all, let's get the pedigree started. So we know it's a sex-linked recessive. We've been told that already. Sex-linked recessive. So let's make XN, capital N, is this normal? And we'll make X little n hemophilia. All right, so we have a recessive X allele here. Okay, so what's it telling us here? Well, to start with, it's saying we have a daughter who has hemophilia. She's got 2 X chromosomes. It's recessive. The daughter must be X little n, X little n. So that's the daughter there. Okay, what about the son? They have a son who does not have the condition. So the son must be XN, Y. Put a little box around that for male. Okay, so that's what the genotypes here are of the son and the daughter. Now we can start working backwards, looking at where these X chromosomes came from, and we can work out what the rest of the pedigree must have looked like. So let's start at the bottom here, and we'll look at let's look at the daughter to start with. So the daughter, she has the trait, okay? The son does not have the trait. And what's this going to look like if we go up to the parents here? Remember, the son is XN for normal, Y. He had to get one of those. Let's draw the dad here and draw the mum. He had to get one of these X chromosomes here from the mother because he got the Y from the father. So that X capital N, that normal allele, had to have come from the mum to start with. So she's X capital N. We know that so far. Now we go back to the daughter down here. We know that she is recessive. So she's got an X lowercase n for both. One of those X's would have to have come from the father, okay? So the father must be X little n Y. So he would have the condition. He's got that recessive trait. He doesn't have another X chromosome to counteract that, to dominate. So he would be X little ny, and he would have the trait. Now, the mum, well, she's got the dominant trait there because she's given it to the son down here who doesn't have it, X capital N. But what about the other chromosome? Well, we can work that out by looking at the daughter again. She got the X lowercase n, the hemophilia allele from the father, from there. She's also got another X lowercase n, which had to come from the mum. So she must have another allele here, X lowercase n. So when we look at our pedigree, and I'll just show the one that came in the marking criteria, that's what we'd be looking at here. So you have a father who has it and passed on that recessive allele to the daughter, and then, as we've already just shown in that diagram above, the mother, she would not have or she wouldn't express that because she's got a dominant, but she's also got that recessive allele that she passed on also to the daughter. And she's got a dominant allele because the questions told us that the son doesn't have hemophilia. He must have got the dominant allele from the mum. So that's question 24b. This is another past HSC multiple choice question on pedigrees. They always pop up. So let's have a look at this one here. And I think one of the key things is, and not just with pedigrees, but with multiple choice in general, if you eliminate, you probably are going to do better than if you try and pick which one is correct. So start eliminating ones that can't be correct. You should be left with the correct answer. Let's start with our A, sex-linked recessive. So think about this. If it's sex-linked recessive, if the mother has it, the son must. So let's have a look for an example of that. If it's sex-linked recessive, here's an example where the mother here has it. So if it's sex-linked recessive, let's just say it's lowercase r, lowercase r. She would pass one of those lowercase r's on to a son, and let's just say this one down here, he would be X recessive, and he'd have the Y chromosome from the father. So he should show it. That doesn't appear in this case here. If it was sex-linked recessive, again, if the mum has it, all of the sons should have it, and this guy down here doesn't, so it's not sex-linked recessive. We'll get rid of that one. What about sex-linked dominant? If it's sex-linked dominant, if the father has it, the daughter must have it. All right, so for instance, at the top here, if the father has it, and this is sex-linked dominant, let's just say he's got the capital R here, and he's got the Y. Well, it doesn't matter what the mother has because he's going to pass that dominant X allele here to all of his daughters. So we can have a look here, and we have daughter who doesn't have it. And if it was sex-linked dominant, this would look like capital R. And it doesn't matter whether it was a lowercase or an uppercase from the mum, it would still have that dominant allele from the father. We don't see that in this case. So sex-linked dominant, we can get rid of that one there. So process of elimination, we've gotten rid of 2. What about non-sex-linked recessive? So autosomal recessive, if both parents have it, all the kids will. Both parents have it, that would look like, if it's autosomal, it'd just be there's no dominant allele there, so all the kids should have it in that case. And again, this guy down here, he doesn't. So we can, excuse me, rule out non-sex-linked recessive. The answer would be D, autosomal dominant. And here's another past HSC, another pedigree to interpret. And again, the best thing you can do here is go through, try things out, and try and eliminate what can't be correct. Starting with A, recessive and not sex-linked, so autosomal recessive. Both parents have it, all the kids must have it. I mean, this would be lowercase, lowercase, lowercase. The kids would have no option but to get those recessive alleles. That's not the case here, so it's not A. What about dominant and not sex-linked? So what if we had a heterozygous? So this is not sex-linked. What if we had a heterozygous? That's a capital R, lowercase r. Yeah, well, it's possible that you could have those recessive alleles being expressed there from the parents. That's possible. I mean, chances are you'd see some of the kids with that dominant allele. We don't in that case, but that doesn't rule it out. And then if we have a look over at this case over here, this could be This could have a dominant allele here, which would give RR for the offspring there. So we could have dominant, not sex-linked. So let's put a pin in that one. Hold on a sec. Recessive and sex-linked. Well, again, if it's recessive and both parents have it, if it's recessive sex-linked, then the kid should have it. And we don't see that in this case. So it can't be recessive and sex-linked. And codominant, well, we don't have that many options. So it can't be codominant. In this case here, B is the most correct. It's dominant and not sex-linked. Would make the most sense in this case. So B is the correct answer. And again, you're going through and just using the process of elimination. Draw on your exam sheet if you have to, even if you have to draw up some Punnett squares and try a few scenarios out to see if it works out and see what the offspring will actually look like. Feel free to Punnett square it up and try a few different methods to see which one works. Another pedigree analysis question, another past paper, again multiple choice. In humans, brown eye color is dominant and blue eye color is recessive. A brown-eyed boy and a blue-eyed girl have a blue-eyed mother. What eye color does the father have and why? So let's draw this out. Let's make B brown and lowercase b is blue. All right, so let's start with that. Now we have, what's it telling us we have? We have a brown-eyed boy. So we have a boy down here who's capital B. And we have what else do we have? A blue-eyed girl. So she's got the recessive, she would have B. Okay. Now moving on from that, what else do we have in here? So what's the question telling us? That brown-eyed girl, blue-eyed color is recessive, a brown-eyed boy and a blue-eyed girl have a blue-eyed mother. Okay, more information. So we have a blue-eyed mother. Okay, well in this case, if the mother is lowercase b for both, she's got blue eyes, but the boy is brown-eyed, he must be heterozygous, so he must have the lowercase b here. So the brown allele must have come from the dad. The daughter is homozygous, recessive, so this must be a lowercase b as well. All right, so now we've sketched that out. So we've got a brown-eyed son, brown-eyed dad, and blue-eyed girls. Let's have a look at what our options are, which one makes the most sense. And again, like draw this out in your exam, and then these questions will make more sense. So could it be A, brown, because the gene for brown eye color is sex-linked? Well, in this case, no. Otherwise, the boy would only get recessive from mum, and Y from dad, so he wouldn't be brown-eyed. He would only get one of these recessive alleles, so it can't be that one. It can't be sex-linked. Otherwise, the boy would be lowercase b, Y. He'd be blue-eyed. So that doesn't work. That's not happening. So no for A. Brown, because at least one of the parents must have brown eyes. Yep, that looks good. So the father would have brown. Yeah. C. Blue, because at least two other members of the family have blue eyes. It doesn't really make any sense. And blue, because at least one of the parents must be heterozygous for eye color. Again, that doesn't really make sense either. So the most correct answer here is B in this case. And it helps, again, to draw out your little pedigrees here. Even if it takes you a couple of goes to get the right formation, draw them out. If you have to use Punnett squares to work this out, by all means, go ahead and use those as well. But this one was fairly straightforward after we drew out this pedigree here. Yeah, so this is a 6 marker from a past paper. Broken up into, I think, a 3, a 2, and a 2 mark part for this. So part A is 3, and this is fairly straightforward, to be honest. As part of an independent research project, a student studied a genetic condition suffered by members of his family. The student wrote the following summary, and it says to construct a pedigree of this family. So what you would do is you would start at the bottom using a square, obviously, for male, and you'd start working your way up just using the information that's given to you in these dot points here. I'm a male, I have the condition, so you draw a square, colour it in. you would then go up and you draw your mum and your dad above it. So the circle, mother does not have the condition. She would be a circle that's not coloured in. Father and his brother have the condition. So the father, you'd make a square and you would colour that one in. Then you would have to go in and draw the siblings of the father. The father's sister, the father's brother. And then you would go on to the father's father, so the grandfather. Now, if you follow this through sequentially, it's pretty straightforward. You'll end up with a pedigree looking like this. So let's follow through from the bottom down here, and we'll go through step number 1. I'm a male, I have the condition. My mother does not have the condition. Circle, not coloured in. Father and his brother have the condition, so father. Then you'd move out over here to the brother has the condition. Father's sister and father's mother do not have the condition. My father's father has the condition. So really you're just following a roadmap there in order to construct that pedigree. The next part of the question gets a little bit more tricky though, so we'll move on to the next part of this question. Alright, so this is worth 2 marks. The student made the following conclusion from his study: as only males have the condition, pull up there, that's a little bit better. As only males have the condition, it must be a sex-linked genetic condition. Assess the validity of the student's conclusion and provide support for your assessment. So in this case here, I'd recommend that you do some Punnett squares because it's not as straightforward. There's not a lot of information in the pedigree itself to make any straightforward assessments here, so to speak. So what's he saying? It must be sex-linked genetic condition. Well, let's have a look and find out whether it's, let's have a look here at sex. I'll just change my pen color, 1 sec. What if it's sex-linked dominant? Let's see if the pedigree matches the Punnett square here. So sex-linked dominant, the father has it, so he must be X. And we'll make, what do we want to make here? Could be, let's just stick with N's. Capital N dominant and a Y. The mother doesn't have it, so if it's sex-linked dominant, she must be X, N, X, N. The offspring would be female, would have it. And as we already saw before, all the females would have it. So no, we can get rid of sex-linked dominance. So okay, well maybe he's talking about sex-linked recessive. Let's have a look. Sex-linked recessive here. If it's sex-linked recessive and the father has it, he should be X, N, Y. And then we would have the mother doesn't have it, so she, well, let's just say that she's N, and we'll make her a lowercase here. Okay, we'll see what this looks like. So we would have a daughter. No, she wouldn't express it if it's, this is recessive, by the way. Could it be sex-linked recessive was what we're looking for. Okay, we'll move on. And the other daughter, okay, well, she may have it. Well, she would, but do we see? No. So in the pedigree over here, we're looking at the daughter over here doesn't have it. But that still holds true because you look here, we've got a daughter here that has the dominant allele. So that could be, it could be recessive. And the males, what do the males look like? We would have, this guy wouldn't have it, but this guy would. Okay, if it's recessive, he's got the lowercase n here from mum, and that holds true as well. Okay, so what we can say here so far is, as males only have the condition, it must be a sex-linked genetic condition. Well, it may be sex-linked recessive. That's a possibility, but let's have a look at autosomal. See what happens in that case. Okay, so if it is, let's try autosomal dominant. We'll do the mum at the top here. So she must be NN, and let's just say dad is N. Will this work if he's heterozygous for it? NN, 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 NN. That's possible. Yeah, absolutely. So again, we don't have that much information in the pedigree, but this is possible as well. So we have offspring, there's a 50-50 chance here of them having it or not. And remember, we're looking here at a dominant. So again, we're just going through and eliminating a few options here. But if the father has it, this is dad, and he does have it in the pedigree. The mum doesn't, so she would be homozygous recessive, but the offspring that we see in the pedigree match the Punnett square. Yeah, there would be some that have it and some that don't. So it could be dominant. So far, it could be sex-linked recessive, and it could be autosomal dominant. All right, what about if it was autosomal recessive? Well, let's just make this dad, and we'll make this mum. That still works as well, yeah. So if it was autosomal dominant or autosomal recessive, with the information we have, that still could be the case. So after going through a few Punnett squares here and working out some options, some possibilities, when you assess the validity of the student's conclusion, you'd basically say here that it's not valid because there is a possibility that this could be, it could be autosomal, it could be non-sex linked. And we've just demonstrated that by looking at the dad, if it was a dominant. And then if we flip this around and we look at dad here with 2 recessive, and the mother, in this case, if it was autosomal recessive, her having a dominant allele would still get a mix of offspring, either showing that phenotype or not. So in that case, we could have an autosomal. It's not guaranteed to be a sex-linked genetic condition. So when you assess the validity here, you'd have to talk about the fact that based on the information that we have, it's possible that this is an autosomal condition.